The car rolled slowly through the narrow streets of the small town. The man sitting in the back seat looked out of the tinted window with quiet eyes. His name was Amir. Years had passed since he had last set foot here. In those years, he had traveled across countries, built companies, and earned wealth that most people could only dream of. To the world, Amir was a billionaire businessman, respected and envied by many. But to him, this town was not just a place on the map. It was where his life had begun, where he had been taken in as a boy by a man who had nothing but gave him everything. Amir remembered the small house at the corner of the street. He remembered evenings when the warm smell of bread filled the air, and the laughter of his adopted dad, Karim, echoed inside those walls. Karim was not his father by blood, but he had raised Amir with kindness. He was the one who had told him stories when Amir could not sleep, the one who had worked long hours so that Amir could go to school. Karim had been his anchor in a world that once felt cruel and lonely. The car stopped near the edge of the street. Amir told the driver he wanted to walk the rest of the way. He wanted to feel the ground, smell the old air, and let memories return on their own. As he stepped onto the familiar road, he noticed how much had changed. Some houses looked broken, some painted fresh, but the faces of children running by carried the same innocence he remembered. As Amir walked further, his eyes searched for Karim. He wanted to surprise him. He had imagined the moment many times during his years away. He thought he would walk into the small house, and Karim would see him standing tall, dressed in fine clothes, successful and strong. Karim would smile with pride, and they would sit together and talk until the sun went down. But what Amir saw instead shook his heart. Near the old neighbor's gate, an old man stood with weak shoulders. His clothes were torn at the edges, his hands trembling as he held out a small tin bowl. The man was asking for food from the neighbor, speaking with a voice that sounded tired. The neighbor handed him a piece of bread, and the old man thanked him softly. Amir froze. His steps stopped as he stared at the old man. That face, though covered in wrinkles and sadness, was one he knew better than any other. It was Karim. His adopted dad, the man who once stood strong, now stood begging for food. Amir's chest tightened. He could not believe what his eyes were seeing. He had imagined Karim waiting for him proudly, not in this state of hunger and need. Slowly, Amir walked closer, his heart heavy. Karim turned after receiving the bread, and his eyes fell on Amir. At first, he did not recognize him. The years had changed Amir. He was no longer the boy who left home with dreams. He was now a man in fine clothes, with the air of someone important. Karim blinked, trying to place the face in his memory. "Dad," Amir said in a low voice, almost trembling. Karim's eyes widened. The piece of bread slipped from his weak fingers and fell to the ground. Tears filled his tired eyes as he whispered, "Amir, is it really you?" Amir rushed forward and caught him in his arms. He felt how thin Karim had become, how fragile his body felt compared to the strong arms that once lifted him as a child. "Yes, it's me," Amir said, his voice breaking. "I came home. I came for you." The neighbor watched quietly, moved by the scene. Some other townsfolk nearby also stopped to look. For them, Amir was just a man returning in a fancy car. But for Amir, this moment was not about wealth or reputation. It was about love, about a bond stronger than blood. Karim leaned against Amir's chest, his voice soft and full of emotion. "I thought you forgot me, son. I thought you would never return." Amir shook his head firmly, holding back his tears. "I could never forget you. You are the reason I am who I am. I came back for you, Dad. I came to take you home. The crowd whispered among themselves, surprised by the truth they had just learned. The billionaire who had returned after years was not just visiting his birthplace. He was here for the man who had once saved him, the man now standing in need. In that moment, Amir made a silent promise to himself. He would never let Kareem suffer again. No more empty bowls, no more begging for bread. He would give back to the man who had given him everything. The sun slowly dipped behind the rooftops, and the street filled with golden light. Amir held Kareem close, knowing that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Amir helped Kareem walk slowly toward the old house. The road felt shorter than he remembered, but the weight in his heart made each step heavy. People whispered as they passed by, surprised to see the wealthy man holding the arm of the frail old man. Some smiled, some looked with pity, but Amir ignored them all. His only focus was on Kareem. The house stood at the corner of the street, just as it had years ago. But time had left its marks. The paint was gone, the roof looked broken in places, and the wooden door creaked when Amir pushed it open. Dust lay on the floor, and the smell of damp walls filled the air. It was no longer the warm home Amir remembered. It was cold and tired, just like Kareem. Amir sat his adopted dad on the old wooden chair near the window. He knelt down, holding Kareem's hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" Amir asked softly. "Why didn't you send a letter, a message, anything? I would have come sooner." Kareem's eyes lowered. His voice was weak, yet calm. "Son, I never wanted to be a burden to you. You had dreams, a world to build. I didn't want you to worry about me. I thought I could manage. But life became harder than I expected." Amir's heart ached. He looked around the room and saw the truth. There was hardly any food, no proper bed, and clothes folded neatly on a broken shelf. It was the life of a man who had given everything and kept nothing for himself. "Dad," Amir said firmly, "you were never a burden. You gave me a home when I had nothing. You worked so I could study, you fed me when you were hungry. Do you think I could ever forget that?" Kareem smiled faintly, his tired eyes softening. "I only did what a father should do." Amir stood up and walked to the door, calling his driver. "Bring the bags," he ordered. Within minutes, food, water, and warm blankets were brought inside. Amir began setting the table, placing bread, rice, fruits, and hot soup he had prepared for the journey. He poured water into a glass and handed it to Kareem. Kareem looked at the food with disbelief. His hands shook as he lifted the glass. For days, he had eaten only scraps. For months, he had lived in silence, never expecting such care again. Tears filled his eyes as he took a small sip of the soup Amir offered. "Eat, Dad," Amir said gently. "Eat as much as you want. This is only the beginning. From now on, you will never go hungry again." Kareem ate slowly, every bite reminding him of the love in his son's eyes. Amir sat beside him, watching with relief as Kareem's face relaxed with each taste. The old man's smile returned little by little, and Amir felt a deep peace inside. When the meal was finished, Amir spoke again. "I am not leaving you here. You are coming with me. I have a home, a place where you will be safe and happy. You will live with me, Dad." Kareem shook his head gently. "This house, these walls, they carry memories. This is where I raised you, where you took your first steps, where you laughed as a boy. How can I leave it behind?" Amir understood. The house was broken, but it was full of history. Still, he could not let his father live in misery. He thought for a moment and then said, "If you want to stay here, then I will rebuild this house. I will make it strong again. You won't have to leave your memories, but you won't have to suffer either." Kareem's eyes brightened with surprise. "You would do that?" Amir smiled, his voice steady. "I would do anything for you. You are my father. Nothing is more important than you." The old man leaned back in his chair, silent for a moment. He closed his eyes, whispering, "I am proud of you, son." The words touched Amir's heart deeper than any award or title he had ever received. In his life, he had earned billions, but this simple sentence from Kareem meant more than all of it. As night fell, Amir stayed in the old house. He repaired the fire stove, lit candles, and spread blankets to keep Kareem warm. The two of them sat together, talking about the past, about the days of school, about the times they had little but shared everything. Outside, the town grew quiet. Inside the broken house, love filled the space once more. Amir knew that tomorrow would bring decisions, plans, and changes. But tonight, he only wanted to sit with his father, the man who had given him a family when he had none. The night sky spread above them, and the stars shone through the cracks of the old roof. For Amir, it was not just a return. It was the beginning of healing, a chance to give back what had been given to him so long ago. The morning sun slipped through the broken roof and lit the small house. Amir woke early, sitting quietly near the window as he watched Kareem sleep peacefully. For the first time in years, his father's face looked calm. Amir promised himself that this peace would never leave again. When Kareem woke, Amir served him breakfast from the food he had brought. The old man ate slowly, smiling now and then. His eyes shone with quiet happiness, though his body still looked weak. Amir sat beside him and spoke gently. "Dad, today I want to meet the builders in town. This house is old, but I will rebuild it. You will live here with comfort, and the memories will stay safe. I also want to help the people of this town. They gave me my first lessons of life, and I have not forgotten." Kareem listened, his hands resting on the table. "Son, the people here have seen hard times. Many live like I did, struggling to find food. If you help them, it will be a blessing. But remember, kindness should be simple. Don't make them feel small by showing too much." Amir nodded. "I understand. I will do it in a way that brings hope, not shame." After breakfast, Amir called his driver and asked him to bring trusted people from the city who could begin the work. He also told him to arrange supplies for the neighbors' food, water, medicine. Soon, the quiet street began to buzz with movement. The townspeople gathered as Amir spoke to them. He stood tall, not as a man of wealth but as a son returning to his roots. "My father raised me here," Amir said, his voice clear. "He gave me a life when I had nothing. Today I have returned, and I want to give back to him, and to all of you. This house will be rebuilt, and the town will be supported. No one here should go hungry again." The people listened with wide eyes. Some whispered with joy, some with doubt. A few older men nodded slowly, remembering young Amir as a boy running barefoot on these very streets. One woman stepped forward. Her name was Salma, a neighbor who had once cared for Amir when Kareem was working late. She said, "Amir, we are happy you are back. But you must know, this town has been forgotten by many. Promises have been made before, and none were kept. If you truly mean to help, we will see it in your actions." Amir looked at her with respect. You are right, Salma. Words mean nothing without action. That is why today we will begin. Food will be shared, and workers will start rebuilding not only this house but also repairing the street and water lines. Step by step, this town will rise again. The crowd grew louder with murmurs, some hopeful, some unsure. But when trucks began to arrive carrying supplies, the doubt started to fade. Children ran to see the boxes of fruits and grains. Men gathered tools, and builders marked the walls of Kareem's house, planning the new structure. Kareem watched all of this from the chair near the door. His heart swelled with emotion. He had raised Amir with love, never expecting anything in return. Now, seeing his son use his strength and wealth to bring change, Kareem felt more pride than ever before. Later that day, as workers started clearing the old wood and fixing the roof, Amir sat with Kareem under the shade of a tree. The old man spoke softly. Son, you could have lived anywhere in the world, in palaces and towers. Yet you chose to come back here. Why? Amir smiled. Because this is where my real life began. Money can build tall buildings, but it cannot build roots. My roots are here, with you. And without you, none of what I built would mean anything. Kareem closed his eyes and nodded, touched by the words. The news of Amir's return spread quickly through the town and nearby villages. Some people came just to see the billionaire who was rebuilding his father's old house. Others came hoping for help. Amir welcomed them all, but he stayed firm that his first priority was Kareem. As the sun set, the sound of hammers and saws filled the street. The old broken house was slowly changing. The townspeople began to feel something they had not felt in years: hope. That night, Amir walked through the street with Kareem. Neighbors greeted them warmly, offering prayers for their health. Children smiled and followed them, calling Amir big brother. Kareem's heart was full. He leaned on Amir's arm, whispering, "Today I saw light return to this place. You have done what I never could." Amir looked at him with gentle eyes. "Dad, you gave me everything. Now it is my turn." The two of them stood together under the stars. The town around them was changing, and their bond was stronger than ever. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Amir was ready to face it for his father, and for the people who had once been his family. The next few days were filled with noise and work. Builders carried wood, bricks, and cement. Painters measured walls. Electricians checked the old wires. The broken house slowly began to take shape, and the street outside looked busier than it had in years. Children played around the workers, laughing as they watched machines move. Women came to see the progress, their eyes shining with wonder. For the townspeople, it felt like a dream. Amir was not only rebuilding his father's house but also repairing the old water pipes and cleaning the broken road. But not everyone was pleased. On the edge of the town, a man named Rashid sat with his friends. Rashid was known for being proud and selfish. For years, he had controlled parts of the town by lending money at high rates. Many poor families had borrowed from him, and when they could not pay, he took their land or small shops. Rashid enjoyed being feared. Now, with Amir's return, things were changing. Families who once depended on Rashid for small loans were now getting food and help directly from Amir. Workers were being paid fairly, and no one needed to bow before Rashid anymore. His pride was hurt, and anger burned in his eyes. "This Amir thinks he can come here with his money and take over," Rashid said bitterly. "The people are blind with excitement, but they will see soon enough. He will not stay here forever." One of his friends asked, But what can we do? He is powerful, and the people love him already. Rashid clenched his fists. We wait. We find his weakness. Every man has one. Back at the house, Amir was busy planning with the builders. Karim sat under the tree, watching. From time to time, neighbors brought tea or fruit for the workers. The street felt alive again. That evening, as Amir walked to the market with Karim, a few men stopped him. They were shopkeepers, worried faces on their tired skin. Amir, one of them said, we respect what you are doing. But some people are spreading rumors. They say you will take our land, that you want to control the town with your wealth. Amir frowned. Who is saying this? The men looked at each other nervously. Rashid and his group. They tell people that you are only showing kindness for now, but later you will demand payment, just like he does. Karim placed a hand on Amir's arm. His eyes were calm but firm. Son, jealousy is natural when change arrives. Do not answer anger with anger. Show them truth through your actions. Amir nodded slowly. He knew his father was right. Words could not fight lies as strongly as actions could. That night, Amir invited the townspeople to gather near the square. Lamps were lit, and families came with curiosity. Rashid and his men also came, standing at the back with crossed arms. Amir stepped forward and spoke clearly. I know there are doubts. Some of you fear that my help is a trick. But let me tell you this: everything I do here is for my father, Karim. He raised me in this town, and I will honor him by lifting this place. I will never take your land or ask for payment. What I have is enough. What I want is to see this town alive again. The crowd murmured, some relieved, others still unsure. Rashid smirked, whispering to his friends, fine words. Let us see how long he keeps them. Amir then announced, tomorrow, a school will begin here. Children will study free of cost. Teachers from the city will come. No child should grow without education, like I almost did. The announcement brought cheers. Mothers clapped, fathers nodded with pride, and children jumped with excitement. The people began to see Amir's intentions clearly. Karim stood up slowly, leaning on his stick. His voice was weak but strong in spirit. This is my son. I raised him not with wealth but with values. If you trust me, then trust him. He will never harm you. The crowd grew quiet. Respect for Karim was deep in their hearts, and his words carried weight. Many doubts faded at once. Rashid, however, turned and walked away angrily. His pride was wounded further. In his mind, he was already planning ways to create trouble. Later, as Amir sat with Karim under the stars, his father warned him gently. Son, light always attracts shadows. Do not be careless. Some may try to harm your work. Amir listened carefully, his eyes steady. I am ready, Dad. I did not come this far to be afraid now. Whatever comes, we will face it together. The night was quiet, but beneath the calm, both new challenges were waiting. The house was rising, the town was changing, but not everyone welcomed the change. The town woke early with the sound of hammers and laughter. Amir's workers were fixing the school building now, a small place that had been closed for years. Children gathered outside, peeking through the windows, excited for the promise of new books and teachers. Amir watched them with a smile. Their bright eyes reminded him of his own childhood, when Karim used to save money just to buy him one notebook. Those small sacrifices had built his future. Now he wanted to give every child the same chance. But while the town seemed filled with hope, Rashid's anger grew deeper. He could not stand the sight of people celebrating Amir. For years, Rashid had enjoyed power. People feared him, bowed to him, and paid him. Now, with Amir's kindness, no one came to him anymore. His pride burned like fire. That evening, Rashid gathered his men in a dark corner of the street. "If this continues," he said in a sharp voice, "I will lose everything. Amir must be stopped. We cannot fight his money, but we can break his name." One of his men asked, "What do you mean?" Rashid leaned forward. "Spread lies. Tell people that Amir is using this school and food to win their trust, but later he will sell the land to outsiders. Tell them he plans to throw the poor out. Fear is stronger than kindness." The men nodded and carried out his orders. By the next morning, whispers began to move through the town. Some people started to wonder if Rashid's words were true. Doubt once again touched their hearts. Amir noticed the change. When he visited the market, some people smiled warmly, but others looked away. When he greeted children, some parents pulled them back with worried faces. Amir returned to Karim, troubled. "Dad, something is wrong. People are changing. They were happy yesterday, but today they look at me with fear." Karim sighed, as if he already knew. "This is Rashid's doing. He is afraid of losing control. Remember what I told you, son, shadows always follow light. Do not let anger guide you. Truth will clear lies, but you must be patient." Amir nodded. He trusted his father's wisdom, but he also knew he had to act. That evening, he called the townspeople again to the square. Rashid and his men came too, standing at the back with folded arms. Amir spoke calmly. "I hear there are doubts again. Some believe I came here to take your land. I want to show you something." He raised his hand, and his driver brought forward a folder. Inside were papers signed in the city. "These are documents proving that the land for the school, the street repairs, and the water system belong to the town itself, not me. I will never own them. They belong to you, forever." The crowd gasped. Many faces softened with relief. Mothers smiled, fathers nodded. But Rashid quickly shouted from the back, "Do not trust him. Documents can be faked. Words can be sweet but empty." Amir looked at him directly. "Then let me ask you, Rashid. For years, people borrowed from you and lost their homes. Did you ever return their land? Did you ever give them food without a price? What did you give this town except pain?" The crowd turned to Rashid, murmuring. Some of his old victims lowered their heads, remembering the truth. Rashid's face turned red with anger, but he had no answer. Karim stood up slowly, leaning on his stick. His voice was weak but steady. "I raised Amir with honesty. If you trust me, trust my son. I would never stand by his side if he planned to harm you. Look at what he has already done. Food is on your tables, roads are being fixed, a school is opening. Are these the actions of someone who wants to destroy you?" The crowd grew quiet. Then one by one, voices rose. "We trust Amir. He has helped us. He is not like Rashid." Rashid clenched his fists and stormed away, his men following behind. His plan had failed, but his anger grew even more dangerous. Later that night, Amir sat with Karim on the porch of the half-built house. "Dad, Rashid will not stop. He will try again." Karim looked at him with tired but wise eyes. Yes, son. But remember, truth always wins in the end. Do not let fear control you. Keep doing good, and the people will stand with you. Amir nodded, but inside he was alert. He knew Rashid would not give up so easily. The fight for trust was not over. Yet as he looked at Karim beside him, he felt stronger. For his father, and for the town, he would not give up either. The stars above shone bright, but Amir knew the shadows of doubt were still moving somewhere in the dark. Days passed, and the house began to look new. Fresh paint covered the walls, windows were fixed, and the roof no longer leaked. The school also opened, with children laughing inside, holding new books and pencils. The town was changing, and hope was growing. But Rashid could not bear it. Every smile in the street felt like a wound to his pride. He had failed to turn people against Amir with lies, so now his anger pushed him toward a darker plan. One night, Rashid gathered his men in a hidden place outside town. If words do not work, actions will, he said, his eyes burning. We will break Amir's name by breaking what he has built. Let us strike fear again. The men looked at each other nervously. One whispered, but he is powerful. If we are caught, the whole town will hate us. Rashid slammed his fist on the table. Then do it carefully. No one will know it was us. Burn the storehouse he built for food. Let the people believe Amir's promises are weak. The men obeyed. That night, they crept into the small storehouse Amir had filled with grains and fruits for the town. With oil and fire, they lit it quickly and escaped into the darkness. By morning, smoke filled the sky. People ran to the street, shouting and crying. The storehouse was burning, and nothing could be saved. Amir rushed from the house, Karim following slowly with his stick. The sight made Amir's heart drop. All the food he had gathered for the poor was turning into ash. The townspeople looked at him with worried eyes. Some whispered, maybe Rashid was right. Maybe Amir's plans cannot last. Fear started to spread again. Amir stood in front of the fire, his clothes covered with smoke, but his voice was strong. Do not be afraid. This is only a building. Fire can burn wood, but it cannot burn hope. I will bring more food, more than before. No one will go hungry. I promise. Some people nodded, but others still doubted. Rashid, hidden among the crowd, smiled secretly. His plan had worked for now. Back at the house, Karim sat with Amir. The old man's face was serious. Son, this was no accident. Rashid is behind it. He wants to break your spirit. Amir clenched his fists. He will not win, Dad. I will not stop helping because of him. If he wants to burn buildings, let him. I will build stronger ones. If he spreads fear, I will spread trust. Karim smiled faintly, pride shining in his tired eyes. That is the spirit I taught you. Do not answer darkness with darkness. Shine brighter, and the people will see the truth. That afternoon, Amir called the people again to the square. His voice carried firm and clear. The storehouse is gone, but tomorrow, new trucks will arrive with food from the city. Bigger storage will be built with stone, not wood. Strong walls cannot burn so easily. And every family will receive enough for the week. The crowd listened. Some still worried, but many began to clap. They saw determination in his eyes. They saw a man who would not bow to loss. As promised, the next day trucks arrived carrying food, rice, flour, and fruits. Amir himself stood in the sun, handing supplies to each family. He did not send his workers, he gave with his own hands. The people's faith grew stronger again. Rashid watched from a distance, his anger burning hotter. His men whispered, "Your plan failed. He is stronger than before." Rashid's face twisted. "Then we must strike at his heart. If we cannot break his work, we will break his soul." That night, as Karim rested inside the almost finished house, Rashid and two men moved quietly through the shadows. They pushed open the window, planning to frighten the old man. Rashid whispered, "If the father suffers, the son will weaken." But fate had other plans. Amir was awake, sitting near Karim's bed, reading old letters he had saved. He heard the noise and rushed to the window. With sharp eyes, he saw Rashid trying to enter. Amir shouted, and the workers nearby came running. Rashid and his men fled into the dark, leaving behind their plan. But Amir had seen enough to know the truth. Rashid would go as far as harming Karim. That night, Amir sat beside his father, holding his hand. "Dad, I will never let anyone hurt you. You are my life. Whatever Rashid tries, I will protect you." Karim smiled weakly, squeezing Amir's hand. "I trust you, son. You have the strength of 10 men, but also the heart of kindness. That is why you will win." Outside, the town was quiet, but tension hung in the air. Rashid was growing desperate, and Amir knew the next move would decide everything. Morning light filled the town, but Amir's mind was restless. The memory of Rashid at the window would not leave him. He had seen anger in Rashid's eyes, but also fear. A man losing his control often became dangerous. Karim sat on the porch, watching workers finish the painting of the new house. His voice was calm when he said, "Son, storms do not last forever. But before they pass, they try to break everything in their way. Rashid is like that storm. You must face him, not with fists, but with truth." Amir nodded. His father's words always guided him. Still, he knew silence was no longer enough. Rashid had already tried to burn the food and now had dared to come near Karim. The town needed clarity, and Amir needed to protect his father and people. That evening, Amir sent word for all townspeople to gather in the square once more. Lanterns were hung, children sat on the edges, and families stood close together. The new school building shone behind them, its windows bright with light. Rashid arrived too, unwilling to hide. His men stood around him, arms crossed, trying to look strong. Amir stepped forward. His voice was steady, reaching every ear. "My friends, my family, tonight we must end this matter. Rashid has ruled this town with fear for too long. You all know his ways. He took land from the poor, he charged heavy debts, and he enjoyed your suffering. Now he is afraid, because hope has returned. He burned the storehouse, he spread lies, and last night, he tried to step into my father's room. This cannot continue." The crowd gasped, turning to Rashid. Murmurs rose. Rashid's face turned red, but he shouted, "Lies. All lies. He blames me because he wants to take my place. Do not trust him." Amir looked at him calmly. "Then answer this, Rashid. Where were you when the fire began? Why did my workers see your men near the house? Why have so many families lost their homes to your debts?" People began to speak up. One man raised his voice, "I lost my shop to Rashid." Another woman cried, "He took my land when I could not pay. My children still suffer." Voices grew louder, one after another, until the whole square echoed with truth. Rashid's men shifted uncomfortably. They knew the people were no longer afraid. Karim, leaning on his stick, stood slowly. The crowd grew silent out of respect for the old man. His voice was weak but filled with strength of spirit. I have lived in this town all my life. I raised Amir with honesty, and he has come back with the same. I may be old and poor, but I know truth when I see it. Rashid brought only fear. Amir brings hope. Choose for yourselves whom you will follow. The people clapped, cheering Karim's words. Some shouted, we stand with Amir. No more fear. This is our town, not Rashid's. Rashid's face twisted in rage. He tried to push through the crowd, but his men slowly stepped back, unwilling to fight against so many voices. Rashid realized his power had slipped away like sand. The fear he once used was gone, replaced by unity. Amir walked closer to him. His voice was low but firm. Rashid, this ends now. You can stay in this town if you wish, but you will no longer harm these people. If you choose peace, you may live among us. If you choose darkness, you will stand alone. For a long moment, Rashid said nothing. His pride wanted to shout, but his heart knew the truth he had lost. Finally, he turned and walked away, his men leaving behind one by one. The crowd cheered louder, their fear finally broken. That night, the town celebrated. Music filled the air, children danced, and women cooked meals to share. The school opened officially with lights glowing from every window. Families sat together, speaking of a brighter future. Amir sat beside Karim, who smiled at the joy around them. Son, today you did more than rebuild a house. You rebuilt hearts. That is the greatest work of all. Amir looked at his father with warmth. I only followed what you taught me. You gave me love when I had nothing. Now I only return it. Karim held his son's hand tightly. I am proud of you. Not for your money, not for your power, but for the man you have become. The stars above shone brighter than ever. The town that once lived in fear was now filled with hope. The broken house was now a home again, stronger than before. And in the center of it all stood a son and his father, bound not by blood but by love stronger than any tie. Amir knew his journey was not over. There would be new challenges, new shadows. But as long as Karim was by his side, and as long as the town stood with him, he was ready. For he had already learned the greatest truth, that wealth was nothing without love, and true power was not fear, but kindness.